Hello everyone! Today we are going to make a Norwegian cake. It is made on a whole baking sheet, so to speak, poured as one layer, and then the layer is cut and spread with cream. Making such a cake is very, very simple. The layers turn out to be meringue and everything is baked in the oven at once. I suggest we make this cake together. It's a simple, easy and very delicious recipe. In total, I will need 6 eggs. 3 eggs, I leave them untouched for now, and I separate 3 eggs. Yolks in one direction, whites in another. The whites, I set them aside so we can make meringue from them later. Now we beat 3 eggs and 3 yolks. First we beat the eggs. We don't add anything to them yet. You can just add a pinch of salt. Nothing, without anything, without sugar. We beat everything until the mixture lightens and increases in volume, and it becomes very, very foamy. Look how well and fluffy the eggs have been beaten. Add vanilla sugar and sugar here. Beat the eggs with sugar until the sugar is maximally dissolved. Mix the flour with the baking powder. Add the flour to the batter, but not with a mixer. I used a silicone whisk. You can use a silicone spatula. Mix like this so that the flour combines and forms a batter. Note that I add 4 tablespoons of sugar and 4 tablespoons of flour to the sponge cake. No more, so that the sponge cake is fluffy and not dense. Well, this is perfect. Now, transfer all the batter onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. By the way, your oven should already be preheated. Spread all the batter on the baking sheet in a layer. So look. It all depends on the power of your mixer, how well your eggs are whipped with sugar. Mine turns out very fluffy. My batter is approximately about 1 centimeter thick or so in thickness, which is quite standard. So here is my sponge cake batter. Don't rush to put it in the oven. I've spread it out and I set it aside for a bit. And I take our egg whites from 3 eggs. The egg whites, we start whipping. First, just the egg whites. Whip them well, then add the sugar. Do everything quickly so the sponge cake batter doesn't deflate. Whipped. Now, the sugar. Immediately add the sugar here, like this. And we whip. In just a few minutes, the egg white is whipped and it doesn't fall. You see, it has a beautiful glossy color. A few sugar granules haven't dissolved, but that's okay. If there are a few, it's not a problem. The egg white is transferred to a larger container. And we take ground nuts. I have crushed nuts and almonds here. You can use any nut. The taste of the nut will affect the flavor of the entire cake. So don't use old or rancid ones. So 100 grams of nuts. You can use a little less. Even if you only have 50, add 50. Do not use more than 100 grams. Well, because it will be too low, it will settle. But of course, when you add 100 grams of nuts, it will be very nutty. When you use less, it will just lighten a bit. Nevertheless, nuts should be present, so mix it. Also, don't forget to slightly salt the egg white. Distribute the egg white a little. And stretch the egg white over the sponge cake like this. It's not necessary to stretch it perfectly. It can mix slightly with the sponge cake. The main thing is not to mix it too much with the batter. Bake it as you usually bake a sponge cake, 180 degrees, 25 minutes. I will make the cream from heavy cream. I use 33% cream. Preferably they should be cold. Don't add anything yet. Whip until the whisk starts leaving traces. Look, everything is starting to thicken. And the whisk has started leaving traces, like on sour cream. Now add powdered sugar here, not sugar, but that powdered sugar, and whip everything. The sponge cake is ready. Look, it's golden brown. Now, leave it, just like that on the stove. Don't touch it. Let it sit and rest until it cools completely, so we can spread it later without any issues. So we turn our sponge cake onto the table. Remove the parchment. We divide our sponge cake into 3 parts. Look, 1, 2, 3. We take 2 pieces of foil. Mine is not too thick. I bought it, it's not too thick. So what do? Here, right on the foil, we place a piece of parchment. And I took a board on which I will assemble the cake. Now, here, I transfer 1 sponge cakes like this. As you can see, I will carefully make a border like this by lifting and making a border as if it's a mold. From this side and from this side. And so we will now prepare a mold from foil. Instead of a baking sheet, this corner here, this one here, fold this one. And we get a mold. Sometimes there might not be an exact mold like this. But like this, at home, you can make any shape from foil, in which we will assemble the cake. We start spreading. So, we divide the cream into 3 parts. 1 layer of cream, the next layer of cake, the next, and so on to the top. We place the 2nd layer of cake. Look. See? We spread another layer of cream. Good. Press it down like this so there are no gaps. So, more cream. Try to let the cream come out a little on the sides as well. It will set like this later. So the 3rd layer of cake. Good. Make sure it fits snugly. Try to make the sides fit snugly too. And make sure cream gets into the sides as well. Well, that's it. We spread the remaining cream and sprinkle with nuts. Sprinkle with nuts, put it in the fridge, and by tomorrow your cake will be ready. But I want to decorate it very beautifully. So, what will I do? Now I'll cover it with cling film, press it down, and put it in the fridge. And before serving, I'll take some nuts and whip a little more cream. Instead of cream, by the way, instead of buttercream, they all use cream, but you can use cheese. You can do it either way. I'll show you how I'll decorate it tomorrow. On the 2nd day, I took the cake out of the fridge. It warmed up on the table for about 2 hours. And now I'll decorate it with nuts and serve it. Remove the edges of the mold. Look, like this. The foil mold is easy. It opens like this. And it's no longer needed. Now we unfold the parchment itself. Look, it comes off the sides very well. You see, the cake has absorbed well and warmed up after the fridge. I took almond slices like these. You can use any nut you like. So, sprinkle the top and sides with nuts. And press the nuts down like this. After decorating the cake, I trim the packaging around the edges. Now look at how soft the cake turns out. Look at this beauty inside. You can see the meringue, layers, and cream. Now I'll take a picture for you and we'll try it. The cake turns out so tender. It literally melts in your mouth. Look at how soft and airy the cake is. Look, it's so soft. You can see the layer of nuts with meringue. Let's hurry up and try it. The layers in this cake have such a yellow, beautiful color because of the number of yolks. So it's very beautiful, very tasty. And they are so tender, they just melt in your mouth. I would say it's just a cloud, not a sponge cake. Listen.
A very, very tender cake. You can really taste the nuts. There's so much of them. This meringue inside gives such a very delicate texture, as if with meringue there's also cream. Some kind. Very tasty. The layers are weightless, like a cloud really, like fluff. They just melt in your mouth. Now, regarding the amount of sugar, I gave you the proportion that is in the recipe.
We have sugar both in the sponge and in the meringue. But if you wish, you can slightly reduce the amount of sugar if you want, because it turns out sweet. Well, for all the sweet tooths, it will be just perfect. I really like it. You can sprinkle it with nuts or not sprinkle it with anything. Just spread it with cream and that's it. This cake is also made in a chocolate version. Just add a little cocoa everywhere. This cake reminded me a little. I made it on my channel. There's a video called Napoleon in a New Way. It's a Napoleon in the middle, where it's also made with meringue on the layers. It's a very delicious cake. I just remembered it. I haven't made it in, I don't know, probably an eternity. But it reminded me of this cake. Very tasty. Be sure to check it out on my channel and watch. Give it a like, share this video, and make a delicious new cake.